Today we're going to be knitting this baby bootie. Now this is my grandmother's pattern, and she always claimed it was her mother's pattern. So these booties have a very vintage style to them. But the very best thing about this bootie, it stays on kicking little feet. And it's not hard to knit. So what you're going to need is some suitable baby yarn. I'm using Bernat coordinates in pale yellow. That's a bit of a boucle yarn. Size 2 knitting needles, a single size 7 knitting needle, a darning needle, a crochet hook, this one's size G, a piece of paper and a pencil to write down where you are so you don't lose your place, a pair of scissors to cut the yarn every now and then, and a bit of polyester fiber fill to stuff the bootie when you're done and give it some nice shape. So the first thing we need to do is cast on 28 stitches. Once your stitches are all cast on, the next 2 rows are knit rows all across. But what you're going to do is add a stitch at the beginning and end of each of those 2 rows. I like to add my stitch just inside at stitch 2, and that gives this a nice rounded corner because that's going to become the heel of the bootie. So now it looks like this. See how nice and round these edges are? Next step, knit 3 rows. So this is what it looks like now. This is the sole of the bootie. The next part is to knit this upper. That's this nice stocking neck stitch with this lovely detail in the center of the toe. So the first step is, what you're going to do is you're going to knit 13 stitches. 2, 3, 12, 13, slip 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, pass the slip over, knit 2, slip 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, pass the slip over, and knit to the end of the row. Next row, we're going to purl 12. 2, 11, 3, 12. And then purl 2 together, knit 2, oops, don't drop any stitches, Sandy, purl 2 together, and purl to the end of the row. So what we're doing is we're creating this rib, the detail in the center, this rib, while we're also decreasing stitches to make the foot shape of the bootie. You're going to continue working these rows in decreasing numbers until you only have 6 stitches left on either side of the rib. Once you've done that, your knitting should look like this. Pretty weird, huh? Until you smush it together and realize that there's your boot. Next row, knit all the way across. The next row is going to create the holes that the crocheted tie goes through. So what we're going to do is knit the first stitch, and yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, yarn over, and knit the last stitch. And the reason that you do just 1 stitch at the beginning and end is so that it's 2 stitches in the back so that the space is equal distance to the rest of the row. Next row, knit all the way across. So there's the holes for the crocheted tie to go through. Next step is to create the nice ribbed cuff. So you're going to knit 5 rows of knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, and then on the second row you're going to purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, knit, purl. 5 rows to make the cuff. And now it looks like this. The next row is casting off. And if you remember in the beginning, I said you needed a single size 7 needle to go with these size 2s. My grandmother told me when she taught me how to knit these years and years and years ago to cast off loosely around the cuff, because we all have a tendency to pull our cast off stitches really tight. And if you do, this isn't going to be stretchy enough to get around the baby's leg. So rather than casting off loosely, I just use a much larger needle, and that makes my stitches all nice and even, and it looks just fine. So once you're down to 1 stitch left, pull out enough yarn and cut it off. And the reason I left so much yarn is that this yarn is going to sew the seam down the back and across the sole of the booty. So now take this long yarn you left, thread it onto your darning needle, pull it through the loop at the cuff to stabilize the knitting, turn the whole thing inside out, line up the corner, the holes for the ties, the raised rib down here, and the sole and the heel. And with this yarn, go ahead and sew the seam all the way down the back, around the heel, and to the toe. So here's my booty with the back seam sewed up all the way around the heel, and now I'm ready to sew the sole. But it doesn't get sewn like this. What you do is you grab the heel and push it down to expand it so that it looks flat, more like the sole. And you'll see what that does is that this curls around to the back side, and the edges of the knitting go toward each other as opposed to next to each other. So once you get this laid out flat, it looks like the sole, then go ahead and sew this together. And just like that, we have a delightful little booty. What it needs now is a tie. This is a chain of crochet for the tie with a poof on the end that I'll show you how to do momentarily. For me to make this tie that's 22 inches long, I need about 9 feet of yarn, and it's doubled up. So I have to pull it out 3 times, pull where it would be doubled back, and then chain 80 stitches. Just check your gauge. When your chain is 22 inches long, you're done. So here's my chain all done. But those 2 scrawny little pieces of yarn are not going to make this cute little poof on the end. So how do you do it? First, you get ready to get the poof in there. Lay the chain out flat with the 2 ends like so. Okay? Then you take your yarn and pull out about 3 feet. Grab it, pull it out again, and then grab it where it turns again and pull it out a 3rd time. So I've got a triple piece of yarn here. Then on me, around 2 fingers, wrap it 10 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And cut it off. Then slip this off of your fingers and lay it down right at the end of the chain. And tie this in a double overhand knot. Just wrap the yarn through the loop twice, like so, and pull it loosely just to catch this, because then you can straighten it out and center it a little bit more, like so, and then pull this tight. And by wrapping it twice before you pulled it tight, it'll stay there, so you don't have to worry about it. Then I tie it twice more. So once it's tied, it's time to trim it. put your 2 fingers and your thumb at the base of it and pull it up almost in a cone shape and just cut everything off. The knot that you tied should be right in between all your fingers and your thumb. And trim off all the loose, long pieces. And there you've got that nice little poof at the end of the tie. And the poof serves double duties too. Once this is in the booty, the poof won't go through the holes, so the tie won't come out. Just for reference sake, this little poof is about as big around as maybe a nickel. So it's not very big. The next step is, of course, to put a poof on the other end. But like I said, the poofs don't fit through the holes. So it's important to put the tie into the booty before you put the poof on both ends. The easiest way to do it is to put the other end of the chain back through your darning needle and use the darning needle to pull it through the holes you created. Go in center in the front, out, in, out, and just weave it through all the way around. So once the tie is all the way around, you can get them squared away if you like at this time. The next step, of course, is to put a poof on this end. It's basically repeat the same procedure as the other side. And there it is, poofs on both ends. Take a bit of fiber fill just to make it look more like a foot so it's not so flat. And work it down in to the whole boot so it looks more foot-like, like so. And then a little bit in the cuff as well to keep it nice and round, like that. Tie this in a bow, and what do you know? You get a pair of hand-knit booties. Just like that. Now, it takes me about 45 minutes a booty to knit these when I'm not making a film. So this is an easy project that you can take on for a short period of time. Thanks for watching. Bye.